To help with our coverage of this memorial service. Joining us from behind the badge is Captain Ryan Portman from the Tulalip Police Department, and also with us former King County Sheriff John Urquhart. Our thanks to both of you for being here. We really appreciate it today.
Thank you.
We get together at times like this because we want to honor the life of somebody who has served and given his life in the line of duty. Behind the Badge is instrumental in working with families when they get this tragic news that they've lost a loved one. What has Behind the Badge been doing?
So Behind the Badge, their job is to come in and wrap their arms around this family and help them through the grieving process. They work with logistical concerns that the family may have, flying people in and out, and they just assist in the planning of the celebration of life. They also will be behind or with that family and walk the journey for the next several years as that family mourns the loss of their loved one.
There are a lot of things. I mean, we'll have a lot to cover over the next couple of hours. And I know you'll be walking us through some of the things that will take place. These are a handful of the things people will see, and they won't know exactly what they are. Let's talk about the symbolism here.
So this is very much going to be a law enforcement memorial service. The things that you associate with a typical law enforcement funeral you will see today. And the first thing that you'll notice is the garrison flag that'll be hung from crossed ladders. And then you'll see the riderless horse and then a caisson or two horses pulling the coach, and the coach is where Trooper Gadd will be. And then a cordon of honor will form as Trooper Gadd is removed from the coach and escorted into the venue.
Before we take you live to that procession route, we do want to share with you some of the outpouring of support from the community for Officer Gadd's family, for the patrol community. Here's Sebastian Robertson.
The tragic crash along Interstate 5 has left a profound loss. A child without a father, a wife without a husband, and an agency without a beloved coworker.
The overall situation makes my heart ache, but to see these flowers there's something redeeming about it.
Most of the people who left flowers outside district headquarters did not know 27-year-old State Trooper Christopher Gadd.
Found out he had a 2-year-old.
Though heartbreak motivated them all.
I've shed tears. The patrol is a family, and you don't lose your family when you retire.
A motorist struck and killed Trooper Gadd in Marysville. Gadd came from a law enforcement family. His sister, a trooper for the Department of Public Safety in Texas, and his dad is a current Washington State Trooper.
My wife and I wanted to bring flowers by to show some sort of support for these men and women that put their lives on the line every day they go to work.
WSP Chief John Batiste knew Gadd.
I just graduated him recently from his academy class. Yes, met his family, which makes it all harder.
Knew the rookie trooper had potential.
Oh, he had a very bright future ahead of him, absolutely. Not only that, I think he was of the sharpness and the passion for the job that he would have probably gone up through the ranks of the agency. I have no doubts about that.
Gadd was born in Pasco, graduated from Kent Lake High School. He attended both Green River College and Tacoma Community College before joining the State Patrol in 2021. His career was just getting started.
This is just extremely sad. He's way too young.
And as they mourn, the flowers keep coming.
Sebastian Robertson reporting. If you would like to support Trooper Gadd's family, there are several ways you can do that. Text WSP to 206-448-4545. We will send you a link with all of the information that you need.
Both of our guests will be walking us through the next hour to help you understand what's going on during the procession. We want to take you now live out to the procession route. King 5's Angelique Cockaday is outside the Tulalip Resort Casino with more. Angelique.
Yeah, Greg and Joyce, we are seeing that procession starting with several motorbikes having made their way down this road. We are in a gravel lot just across the street from Tulalip Resort Casino, where you can see behind me more than 100 law enforcement vehicles have been arriving. They turned their lights on, those flashing lights you can see, just rows and rows of them about 20 minutes ago. Agencies from across Western Washington, even some from out of state. I saw a State Patrol with an Iowa saw license plates. So that gives you an idea of how many people, respected Officer Gadd, are coming out today to pay their respects. Now, in just a few minutes, we're told the motorcade, along with the family, is going to be leaving State Patrol headquarters over in Marysville. There's been a growing memorial there for the last 2 weeks. Now, it's just a few minutes from here. They will make its way to Tulalip Resort. That's when this parking lot full of officers will follow the motorcade one by one out of this parking lot. But really a very emotional last few hours here, as we've seen several officers hugging each other, patting each other on the back, mourning the loss, mourning the life of a fellow officer. For now, though, reporting live in Everett, Angela Cockadale, I'll send it back to you.
Angelique, have you been able to talk with any of the law enforcement officers there? What is it that they're telling you about what is a really difficult day for law enforcement?
Yeah, I mean, when we've asked people, they've just said, you know, we're gathered here, we're doing the work. This planning started a long time ago, and really they're just focused on being with each other. They're not even paying attention to really anything else that's really going on. They're really focused on being there for one another. I think the motorcade is passing us as we speak. That was the hearse that just passed by us. You can see the motorcade is now going to start. As I said, the hearse, along with the family, was leaving from Marysville, and now all of the officers that gathered here for the last half an hour following in the full procession to make their way to I-5 south and on to Everett.
Sheriff Urquhart, maybe you can walk us through a little bit. We only have obviously a couple points of view from here, but there are so many things that go on beyond what we can see here. Many moving parts. Kind of walk us through what's happening right now.
There are an awful lot of moving parts, as you can imagine. A scene like this, a service like this, is amazingly complicated, and has been put together in basically less than 2 weeks with the help of Behind the Badge and all the other officers troopers at Washington State Patrol and other agencies as well. It's just a very, very complicated operation, and it's all to pay tribute to pay respect to Trooper Gadd. And it's the right thing to do. It also brings the community in to let them pay their respects as well, not only to Trooper Gadd, but to the profession also.
Why is it so important that the public see this kind of display of respect with so many different law enforcement agencies coming together?
I think we have a tremendous amount of support from the public, contrary to what you may read in the newspapers sometimes, but we really do. It's just we go about our business, our work, day in and day out. The public goes about theirs, but when something horrible like this happens, it gives the public an opportunity to say thanks. They can gather along the procession route, on the overpasses, they can go to the memorial service, and they can just say thank you to the job that we do. We get that, they get that, but it's good to see every now and again, even under a horrible circumstance like this is.
You've been in these processions yourself, and I often wonder what all of these law enforcement officers might be thinking and feeling on a day like this, because as we know, any given day that they leave their homes, it could be them that doesn't return.
There is a sense of there, but for the grace of God, go I. You know, we go to work day in and day out, and all of us, when we leave the house, we never think that we may not come back, that today might be the day. We just don't think that. You couldn't do your job if you thought that. So this is the one time, I think, where there is a lot of introspection by police officers and troopers about what happened. What happened to Trooper Gadd, who was just going about his job in the middle of the night, out there trying to arrest drunk drivers, trying to protect the public.
I mean, parked on the side of the road.
Parked on the side of the road in his police car, and then he got killed by apparently another drunk driver out there.
Captain Portman, we're watching a line of mostly State Patrol cruisers right now, some personal vehicles come through here. Logistically, walk us through kind of what we know as far as how many cars there are, how this works. Obviously, motorcycles come out ahead of everything. Kind of walk viewers through some of that.
So first, it starts with the 5-minute bike. WSP deploys a motorcycle that rides the route 5 minutes ahead. That bike is deployed so we can make sure that the officers are in their fixed posts. They're blocking the intersections. He reports back any hazards that he may see. Behind that, you'll see the motorcade, which is being led by WSP Assistant Chief Muir and WSP Captain Knott. Captain Knott. And then the coach with Trooper Gadd, and then there'll be a couple of vehicles with family members, and then behind that are the pallbearers, who in this case are Trooper Gadd's crew. So the 7 individuals that worked closely with Trooper Gadd up in District 7. And then finally a medic unit is there for the family or any of the motor officers that may go down. And then you'll see the vehicle procession, which I'm told is close to 280 vehicles. And WSP, as is tradition, is leading that procession. They'll be followed by other agencies from throughout the area, and then at the end of that, there'll also be a medic unit just in case there's a medical emergency along the route.
And often we get law enforcement from not only surrounding areas, but sometimes it's across the state or even out of state.
Right. I'm told that there's officers from Iowa, Illinois, Alaska, and several other states that are participating in the procession and as part of the Honor Guard.
And what we haven't seen yet, but I can almost guarantee there will be Mounties, RCMP from Canada that come down as well.
Absolutely.
They always do. They're very good about that. And it's fantastic to see them, because that's a long trip.
What does it mean to the family members to see this kind of outpouring from surrounding law enforcement?
It's got to fill their heart knowing that their son's sacrifice is recognized. I think it's just got to be overwhelming for them to see that not only are the people in blue behind them, but the community is behind them as well.
You have to hope it can temper the loss just even a little bit.
Yes.
Tell us about Trooper Gadd. You said this was his dream job.
Yes. So what I'm told is this is what he wanted to do. This is who he wanted to be. He wanted to be a trooper. And he got hired. He got deployed in Marysville, which is an area that he wanted to work. And he, by all accounts, as Chief Batiste said, was an up-and-coming star. He graduated top of his class academically, and then he was the top reconstructionist, which for the troopers is a big job. That's the people that put fatal crashes together. They do all the work on that. And so it tells me he was a very smart, young, capable trooper.
I think young is kind of the key word here. He was 27 years old. And to us who've been around the block once or twice, that's just amazingly young. And yet he's out there protecting the public, doing, again, as the captain said, his dream job. You know, I swore in 40, 50, 60 new deputies every single year while I was sheriff. And I'd always ask them, why are you here? Why do you want to be a police officer? And almost without exception, they said some version of, I want to serve the public. I want to help the public. I want to make a difference in my community. And it can be a bit of a cliche, but these men and women were absolutely serious. They were sincere about what they wanted to do, and there's no doubt in my mind that's why Trooper Gadd's entire family was in law enforcement. His father, his sister. It's very, very impressive.
And I just want to point out, when you say top of his class, literally he was the top of his class, the highest score on more than 30 exams, and he was honored for that. The brightest of the bunch there.
Yep, top academic producer at the academy. So
fantastic.
I certainly wasn't that.
no, nor was I.
No, that's very tough to do and very, very impressive.
So it says a lot about him. We want to get now to Angel of the Winds Arena in Everett.
And that's where King 5's Eric Wilkinson is waiting for that procession to arrive. Eric.
Right, we're starting to see folks gather and show up here outside the arena. We can show you what's happening here. A large contingent of law enforcement. We've got Honor Guard. We've got, we've seen some of the mounted personnel come through as well. We can show you some video that we've taken over the course of the morning. Again, the horses, the Honor Guard, flags at half-staff. We are seeing police not just across Washington, as you guys have mentioned, and the Northwest, but from across America. Usually we see police even from as far away as New York City. I know after 9/11, they sort of made it a point to make sure they had some sort of representation as much as they could across the country when things like this happen. Among the folks that we have seen gathered here are David and Lillian Griggs. They came from Granite Falls. They have a very special connection to Trooper Gadd. Here's what they had to say.
My son's also a trooper out of District 7 and worked with Trooper Gadd, and so this hits very close to home for us, and we wanted to come and show our support. My son's going to be in the procession as well, coming down here soon.
So what's it been like for you and your son and your family this whole time?
It's been pretty tough. My son is obviously He couldn't believe it was real afterwards. He talked to me about how he just was in the break room laughing and joking with Trooper Gadd just a few hours before the event happened, and he went off shift at 2, and so was off shift when the tragic accident happened. But yeah.
How long's your son been on the state patrol?
Going on almost 4 years. Three and a half. Yeah.
Lillian, can we ask you? I mean, as a mom, right? This has to bring it all home to you.
It's very hard. Yeah. We just have to deal with it every day and pray for them that everybody's safe. Yeah.
Every family, when they send a son or daughter, mother or father out to protect and serve, there's always that thing in the back of their head, right? How has this changed or impacted the way you live your life day to day with your son?
It's not easy. You know, it's pretty difficult. And every morning we wake up and say, "Oh my God," just praying that everybody's okay. And
what are your thoughts for his family today?
very sad. Yeah, I've been crying since last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It just impacted so many people in this community, not just law enforcement, families of law enforcement, friends of law enforcement, because they know it's always in the back of their mind that this could happen to one of their loved ones. And it's lost on no one right now that it was almost exactly 2 years ago that Officer Dan Rocha of the Everett Police Department was killed in the line of duty. His memorial service also right here at Angel of the Winds Arena. We'll have more on this as the procession arrives. For now, I'm Eric Wilkinson. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
And Eric, we'll get back to you. It's just so powerful to hear from that family. They represent so many families of law enforcement. You know, when we see officers out and about, we don't think about the extension of that on and on and on. And in the case of Trooper Gadd, not just his father, but his sister, all of them in law enforcement serving their communities. It's really remarkable.
It is, and I feel for his mom. My wife has to worry about me. She has to worry about her husband, her son, and her daughter. And that's incredible to me, the worry that she must have at times.
I can't even imagine the conversations that have taken place in that family about 3 people going into law enforcement, but that also says something about that family and their service.
I think it's a wonderful tribute. I mean, 3 public servants out of the same family, all troopers, all there to carry out the same mission.
We are still watching this procession as it's making its way from Tulalip all the way to Angel of the Winds. How long is that procession? You said there are some 280 vehicles at least involved. What happens when they arrive?
So the motorcade's going to arrive around 11:30. And when they arrive, you'll see the garrison flag. A garrison flag is flown at gala events or celebrations. For those of you history buffs, it comes from the War of 1812 and the Battle of Baltimore. And out of that battle, in which a garrison flag, a large flag, was flown, Francis Scott Key wrote the what has become the Star Spangled Banner. So that flag is attached to cross ladders. Those ladders form an arch, and this is where we inject a little bit of our firefighter memorial service into a law enforcement memorial. Following that, you'll see the bagpipes, which everyone has come to associate with the law enforcement memorial. Those come to us from Ireland, the Great Potato Famine, when people migrated here and they took the less desirable jobs of being police officers and firefighters, low paying, less desirable jobs. And so that's where the bagpipes comes in. And then you'll have the WSB rifle team, followed by the riderless horse with the boots backwards. And that symbolizes a warrior that's not coming back from battle, and a leader looking back on their troops for the last time. And then finally, you'll see a caisson, or 2 horses pulling Trooper Gadd's coach through, and that comes to us from the Civil War, when the caisson, which is a wagon, would go out with ammunition and then bring the injured home or the deceased home.
How involved is the family member or Gadd's wife, Trooper Gadd's wife, in planning?
They're heavily involved. Every decision is run by the family. The family approves every aspect of the service. So they're involved from the get-go, and nothing is released without the family's approval in terms of press releases and whatnot. And all the decisions regarding the ceremony are vetted by the family.
Let me just think about that for a second. You've suddenly lost your husband,
Right.
your daughter's father, and then you are overwhelmed with a ceremony like this and all the decisions that have to be made. People lose loved ones on a fairly regular basis, but they're not faced with a police officer or a firefighter's, a first responder's funeral. All those decisions, all those people around, all the publicity, everything that's happening. I mean, it's a real testament to the strength of that family, as well as the support that they're getting from behind the badge, the other people in the State Patrol. It would be incredibly tough to do.
Because everyone in that situation can participate at a different level. So I would imagine as much as that family can be involved or as little, Behind the Badge is there to fill in the gaps.
Absolutely. And our family liaisons are experienced. They've often suffered a loss themselves. And so they're there to walk that journey with this family from here until however long the family needs.
And so when you think about the time to mourn, it's as if that time has barely started because they've been so involved in planning this public display of respect and celebration.
There's also, in a line of duty death, there's also a tremendous amount of paperwork that the family needs to file because there's a lot of benefits, federal benefits, state benefits that they get, but all of it, as you might guess with the government, has to be handled. And it can be overwhelming. But people like the Behind the Badge are there to help them get that done. So even after this is over today, there's more that goes on. There's more things that the family has to worry about.
And that's when you really need to be there,
Yes.
frankly, right?
Yes. Yep.
Well, that's got to be, I mean, that's got to be a tough balance because you want to have something so private that has to become so public. And how you have, I mean, I guess that's why you guys have to walk them through that and help them. And law enforcement in general is a bigger family, but your specific job is to basically handle all those details that they have to deal with I don't want to call it an event, but it kind of is an event, like something like this.
Yes, and again, with our experienced family liaisons, they're able to walk them through, to give them options so that they have choice. It's important for people that are mourning and grieving to be able to have choice, to be able to make decisions, and that's what our folks do is they walk hand in hand with them and give them options for how this ceremony may play out.
You talked about the bagpipes and that's always part of the ceremony. Do they play specific songs on an occasion like this?
We're always going to hear Amazing Grace, and that'll come up at the closing portion of the ceremony. That's a go-to for all law enforcement and firefighter funerals, and that came about really in the 70s. That became really popular for law enforcement and firefighter funerals.
Let me jump in here on the bagpipes. And just one small correction I want to make. Urquhart is a Scottish name. These are Scottish bagpipes. They're not Irish bagpipes. Just to keep the record straight here.
And
there certainly are Irish bagpipes, but they will be playing Highland bagpipes today.
And the sheriff is correct.
Glad that you're here to
Details,
clear that up for us.
Yeah,
Tell us what we're seeing now. This is, they're not quite there,
I think
Angels
this is
of
the
Winds.
midpoint. It's American Legion Park. I think this is where they're coming around Marine View Drive here because it basically comes down south to I-5 and then snakes up like north through Everett again and then back down south through Everett before it gets to its destination. So I think, if I'm correct, it's about 15 miles, the route.
And when they arrive, what will be the scene when they arrive?
So when they arrive, only the coach and the family will go under the garrison flag, and then everyone else will be diverted off to parking. And then they'll pull through the garrison flag. This is where you'll start to see all of the ceremonial traditions, starting with the bagpipes, and like we talked about, the horse.
And what are we seeing here in the upper right corner?
I believe that is Trooper Gadd's class, his academy class.
It's a graduation ceremony that they do at the state capitol.
Right.
Yeah.
It looks like Chief Batiste.
Yep.
Kind of
Swearing
showing
him
some
in.
of the background. I mean, this is when you've got 280 vehicles and 15 miles to go. And we've seen this before where they'll kind of come down and most of them will go into the parking lot. You have just the few that will, and I know you walked us through some of the pomp and circumstance. We'll be doing that again as it happens to really let people understand the symbolism as we walk through that. And there won't, typically when we get to that, we like to just listen because you have sometimes the bagpipes and you can watch. And some of the sounds that are, I don't even know how to explain them, but you only see in a ceremony like this.
Yeah, the symbolism that goes along with this speaks for itself, right? We can sit and just take in the moment.
You had mentioned that he graduated top of his class. He was 27 years old, 2.5 years, still long enough to have quite an impact in the department, right?
Absolutely. And again, I think coming from a family of public servants, his dad's probably well known in the State Patrol, and he's even though it was only 2.5 years, he was highly regarded by his people out of District 7.
And loved working up in Marysville, up in that part of our community. 2-year-old daughter, Kaylin, and his wife. I can only imagine what they must be going through, surrounded by family. I know that his father's here and mom and sister arrived. It must be such a difficult time because she also so young and their child so young.
It seems like, at least for the last several, right, little or young children have been left behind. I take comfort, though, in knowing that those kids will have a family of blue that wraps their arms around them from here until their wedding.
People may not realize that. You really do stay with the family and the kids
Absolutely.
through graduation into
talk
college.
about that a little bit, because it wasn't last year. I think we talked about 2 years ago. We had a few of these, and there were kids involved. In the years that follow that, what do you guys do, and how do you help the families who have a lot more to do now?
So certainly from the Behind the Badge perspective, we sponsor events that bring survivors together so that those kids aren't alone. They have other kids who have lost a parent or a loved one, and they can mingle and associate with them and kind of grieve and mourn together. Outside of the Behind the Badge Foundation, and specific to the patrol, I was talking with a trooper who lost a partner several years ago, and he was commenting about how that child, they had a child at that time, was 2 or 3, and this kid's now in high school. And this trooper was telling me that he still goes to that kid's events. He still is there on the other end of the phone when a call needs to be made.
That's absolutely true. The last time the King County Sheriff's Office lost an officer from a felonious action was in 2006, Steve Cox in White Center. Most people remember that name.
Yes, yes.
And he had a son and a wife, and deputies still interact with the son and the wife, Maria Cox, to this day. And it's almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Their family just really expands, doesn't it?
That's exactly right. And it's one of the things we do, we want to do. It's the right thing to do.
This scene that we see as this procession makes its way through town, because it's such a busy road, we don't see all of the people lining that route like we would normally see if it were going through the middle of town. But still, people are stopping. Cars are stopping, and you can see that people know what is happening here, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. And it's wonderful to see when the community comes out, as Sheriff Urquhart spoke about earlier. It's not only important for the family, but it's important for the officers and the troopers and the deputies behind them. As Sheriff Urquhart mentioned, there are times when it can feel pretty lonely being a cop. And when we have these types of events and the community comes out and supports us, it fills our bucket, it charges our battery. It makes us want to go out and protect and serve, take the oath seriously that we had taken many, many years ago.
This ceremony is clearly for the family.
Yeah.
We certainly can't forget that. But it's also for us. It's also for the profession, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely.
It is. It does. It recharges us. It helps us remember that the public likes what we do. They need us there. They want us there. They are happy to have us there. And that's just a good feeling.
And even the people who can't be there, I went to the website for the State Patrol, and it was just impressive, the number of people who've reached out from around the world to send their condolences to Trooper Gadd and to his family and to the law enforcement family.
Yeah, that's overwhelming. I had the opportunity to spend some days up their detachment, District 7 up there, and just watch the community come in and place flower after flower on the patrol car, and it was just amazing to see the outpouring of support from the Marysville community in District 7. District 7 encompasses 5 counties. It's Snohomish County, Skagit County, Whatcom County, Island County, and San Juan County. And people came from all over to come and drop a flower or a card off and just give their condolences to the troopers.
Significant for the family, of course, which is the primary concern, but
Yes.
also for the department and for the community to see that he's not going to be forgotten and that there's appreciation for the sacrifices that law enforcement make.
There has to be, Sheriff, in a time when, and I don't want to get too much into the politics of it, but at a time when agencies have been struggling to hire here in Washington State, to have somebody like Gadd, who was the top of his class, that kind of kid who clearly is going to have a remarkable career if nothing happens to him. Here you're recruiting the people that you want, and then you have a life cut short like that. It's just got to sting a little bit to know that, you know, you're going out trying to get the best and brightest, and you have them, and then you don't have them.
That's exactly right. And just as you say, it's a tough time now, politically, I guess, to say, to be a police officer. And we pride ourselves in avoiding the slings and arrows and being a tough guy or a tough woman, and nothing bothers us. And to a certain extent, that's absolutely true. But you turn that around, and it does hurt. We know, I know, and certainly the captain knows the job that these people do and how tough it is to be a police officer. We see things that no human being should have to see, and we can't go home and tell our wives about it or our loved ones about it. We have to deal with things that we can't talk about. We are privy to information we can't talk about, and that can be hard. And just to have the public understand that is really reaffirming. Oftentimes, somebody will ask me, well, you know, what should we do? What should we say now once this happens? You know, and I tell them it's like any other situation where maybe your neighbor died, and all you have to do is say to that neighbor's wife or husband that I'm sorry for your loss. And that's what we would love the public to do. If you see a police officer, you know, having coffee or having his lunch, just say, hey, I'm sorry for your loss. And that means a lot.
We want to get to Eric Wilkinson. He is at Angel of the Winds. Let's take a live look now and just listen for a moment.
Yes, we are just beginning to see the very, very front end of the procession coming down Hewitt Avenue here in downtown Everett. Just about a block from Angel of the Winds Arena. We've seen some of the motorcade, the motorcycle police clearing the way. I think we'll sit back now and just listen to these Scottish bagpipes as they make their way into the arena.
Captain Portman, tell us what we're watching here.
So this is the Washington State Patrol Rifle Team. They're part of the ceremony, and following the Washington State Patrol Rifle Team, you'll see the riderless horse, which we talked about. The significance of that is a warrior who didn't come home from battle, or a leader who didn't come home looking back on his troops. And so that's the boots backwards, of course the hat.
There's the hat right on top there.
Yep. And then following that, you'll see two additional mounted units. And what we're symbolizing here is the coach is a caisson or a wagon that is bringing the deceased home from battle. And so it's meant to symbolize pulling that coach under the flag and home.
And what will that be followed by?
And then we'll get into the motorcade. And so the motorcade, as we talked about, is being led by an assistant chief from the WSP, and then the coach.
And you said they will not go under the garrison flag, only the family.
The family goes under the garrison flag. Everyone else diverts off. And it's just meant because it's a significant but a significant situation. And so it's just the family is the one that's honored by going under the flag.
Tell me about, and I know you've done this in the past, as they walk by, they've got their hands on the vehicles.
Those are the escort officers, and they're assigned to the family for the entire day. So wherever the family goes, the escort officers are there. They're there to protect the family. They're there to get the family whatever they might need, and just to be a resource for the family. And so there's escort officers assigned to each vehicle, as you can see, and they will be, again, with the family throughout the day.
And people may not realize that from the moment that Trooper Gadd was killed, he has not been alone. There's a casket watch.
That is absolutely correct. From the moment that an officer falls in the line of duty until after the funeral, there will be a casket watch. And that casket watch is comprised first of the agency, so Washington State Patrol has the opportunity to fill those positions for casket watch, and then oftentimes it's surrounding agencies that come in and assist WSP with that casket watch.
So from March 2nd until this very moment, 24/7,
he's not been left alone.
Someone has been with him.
Yep.
That's extraordinary.
Yep.
And meaningful to the family, I would think.
Absolutely. They're not going to be left alone, and that's, from every stage, every movement, there's going to be people that go with Trooper Gadd and then remain with Trooper Gadd.
Have you gotten feedback from families, after something like this, as to how they felt about everything? And I'm sure they're grateful for how you guys have handled things. But what are some of the things they have said about the process?
They're grateful that there are people to walk this journey with them, right? To help in the decision-making process, to help with the paperwork, as the sheriff said, and more importantly, that after today, they're there to hold their hand as well and to walk them through this journey of grief and this period of mourning. After the ceremony, when the lights go down, so to speak, it can be oftentimes it can be lonely, right? And we're here from the Behind the Badge. The WSP is there as the agency to support them from here on out.
I want to see, is Eric Wilkinson still available to us? Eric, are you there?
I am here.
What was it like for you to watch that?
Well, I'm standing here watching grown men cry, and it's hard not to join in yourself sometimes. As the motorcade went by, out of respect for the family and their privacy, we've agreed to not show them. But as it passed, you couldn't help but see in the back window the American flag draped coffin of Trooper Gadd, and that just brings it all home. And it's just a brutal reminder of just how tough that job is, how fleeting life is, and how in the blink of an eye, you're sitting on the side of the road doing your job, trying to protect people from drunk drivers when you're hit by an accused one, and your entire family's life is turned upside down forever. It's a very, very powerful moment out here, and it's only going to get more powerful as the afternoon continues and we move inside the arena for the memorial service.
You've been our North Bureau Chief for many, many years, Eric, and that's a community that you serve as well. And so you do have a special connection to folks who live north of Seattle.
Well, yeah, we've covered way too many of these funerals over the years. I've been in Seattle for 26 years. I've been working up here for about 15 years. And it's every one of them hits you in a different way, because some of the officers some of them you've met, some of them you've interviewed, some of them you've gotten to know on a personal basis. And you get to know a little bit about their families. Trooper Gadd, we didn't know all that well because he was so young. He'd only been with the State Patrol for a few years, but that doesn't diminish his service, what that does to this community, and how that impacts each and every one of us, especially those of us here in the North End.
What does it mean to see so many people coming out and have you had a chance at all to talk to any of those folks who live there and have wanted to come out to pay their respects?
Yeah, we played a piece of sound earlier in the broadcast. We met a couple from Granite Falls who have been here for about the past hour and a half, waiting for the procession to go through. Their son worked with Trooper Gadd in Marysville, and they told us about just, their son had spoken with him just a couple of hours before he died. And you can imagine what that does to you as a parent when you think, it could have been my son, it could have been my daughter, it could have been my mom or dad. They were here because they wanted to show their respect for this family, for this community, and their love for him. And I know that it means so much to that family and certainly to the Gadd family to see all these people lined up out here paying their respects to their son and, of course, the State Patrol and all of law enforcement.
We really appreciate you being there for us, Eric, just to give us your perspective, because we feel like we're almost there, but not quite. But it's a different, it's not tangible, honestly. It's not like being there, watching it from here, and what that must be like to see the riderless horse go by and to feel the, I don't even have the word for it.
We're just a little bit more removed from it than Eric is clearly there, because I think when you're there, you're almost a part of what's going on. And he was clearly affected by it. And how could you not be with something? And Sheriff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of the reason they don't just go down the highway and zip through is to not just make it for the family, but also give people an opportunity to come out and pay their respects as that goes by.
I think that's exactly right. As you heard, people waiting for a couple hours perhaps for the procession to come by, and they do that. And it gives the community an opportunity to be involved as well. Not everybody can go to the ceremony. Not everybody perhaps can stay home and watch it on television. They'd rather be closer to it than we are. And it is a little bit tough for Captain Portman and I to be here rather than there, because we have been there in the past way too many times, but we've been on this side. And we need to do this, I think, for the community as well, but it's tough for us not to be there. It is, in my opinion anyway.
Of course, going to cover the service when it starts just after King 5 News. We believe it will start about 1 o'clock. So before we wrap it up, I just want to tell everyone once again, if you're just joining us, who this young man was. 27-year-old Christopher Gadd, a trooper for 2.5 years, the 33rd member of the State Patrol to die in the line of duty over the 103-year history of the patrol. Started working in 2021 as a cadet in Grandview, graduated at the top of his class. He leaves behind a 2-year-old daughter and his wife, Cameron. His father, David, is in law enforcement, a trooper for WSP. His sister, Jacqueline, is a trooper with the Texas State Patrol there. He died March 2nd, about 3 in the morning, while he was parked on the side of the road doing DUI patrols when his vehicle was hit on the shoulder there on I-5 in Marysville. We will celebrate his life along with the community coming up for you at 1 o'clock today. Thanks for your time. Special edition of King 5 News coming back up after King 5 News at noon.